Welcome to the Dental 18 podcast. I'm your host, Kiera Dent, and I had this crazy idea that maybe I could combine a doctor and a team member's perspective because let's face it, dentistry can be a challenging profession with those two perspectives. I've been a dental assistant, treatment coordinator, scheduler, filler, office manager, regional manager, practice owner, and I have a team of traveling consultants where we have traveled to over 165 different offices coaching teams. Yep, we don't just understand you, we are you. Our mission is to positively impact the world of dental, and I believe that this podcast is the greatest way I can help elevate teams, grow VIP experiences, reduce stress, and create A-teams. Welcome to the Dental 18 podcast. Hello, Dental 18 listeners. This is Kiera, and you guys, today I am so excited to have back on one of my favorite doctors. He and I tend to come up with some fun ideas to podcast on, and so I'm super honored and grateful to have Dr. Dave Moghadam back on the show today. If you haven't heard, he and I have chatted so many different topics, from mergers to practice to bringing on your hygiene team and how to calibrate your hygiene team. And today we're going to take it on another direction with scheduling. So Dave, how are you today?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. How about yourself?
Great. And guys, just so you know, if you heard the last one, Dave's got a killer mustache going on again today. He's got I wish you guys could see him because he came ready to go today, rocking and rolling. Dave, how's the weather where you're at today? I mean, you've got the mustache going on, perfect haircut today. You're looking suave.
You know, it was one of those things where I got fooled. In the Northeast, you know, we have these fake spring days. So yesterday was really, beautiful, sunny, everything like that. So I threw on a T-shirt and a vest. I was walking outside this morning and somebody asked me where my sleeves are because it's 25 degrees outside.
It's freezing. Well, that's how we are over here. Today's the coldest I think I've ever seen Reno, and it's at 11 degrees today. And for me, that's freezing cold. I don't know what this is. We also had that fake spring. It was almost in the 70s and then plummeted down, got lots of snow. So it's probably coming your way. So get ready for it. Here it comes. But here we go. So Dave, let's dive right in. You guys have a fun day. You get customer service with Disney today. So just going to throw that out there. That's going to be a fun day, but let's talk scheduling. I'm going to just tee everybody up for a possible other conversation on customer service Disney style, but priority scheduling. You're a dentist. You guys have grown a lot. Tiffany works with your practice. She's excited to come see you again. So kind of walk us through this priority scheduling and what you guys have found successful in your practice.
So yeah, it's a really good topic. Probably about almost a year ago now, I was really thinking about, what is going on with our schedule, because for years and years, as we've gotten busier, Monday through Wednesday has always been like gangbusters and awesome. And then we get to Thursday and it is just like, oh my God, what is going on here? It's all the little ancillary nonsense that you just don't want to deal with. And everybody's running around and trying to deal with seeing a bunch of patients. And our practice is not really, like that or geared for that really. And you work harder, it's less fun, and everybody really just does not enjoy it, especially me.
Right.
So for years and years, we've kind of always heard the big consultants saying, oh, you got to schedule to production and, this and that. And that just never really resonated with me in the least bit, because I always have this, my philosophies about this is kind of, schedule everything else right, plan everything else well, do the right things, treat everybody, the right way, and the numbers come.
Right.
I feel like when we fixate on the numbers, it's I don't know, I just don't feel good about it, and I don't think my team does either.
Sure. But
what I can get behind is, well, everybody wants to have a better experience at work. And when myself and the other doctor are happier, everybody else is happier too, because we're not just walking around like grumpy pants.
Right.
So I'd heard the idea of priority scheduling through a bunch of other podcasts. And I said, you know what? I think I can get behind this. I know you guys had been a big, proponent of actually managing the schedule, setting time out better, everything like that. So I sat down and I figured out, well, what does an ideal week look like? What type of procedures do I want to do? How do I want to break them up? How do we set up time where, the flow of everything's better? Where do we put in the ancillary stuff so it's not something where we spend one day running around and we just end the week on just like a kind of note there.
Right.
So we started doing this, I think, last March. And it could be the perfect storm. It could be, a lot of factors, but between that, ramping up our marketing, everything like that, all of a sudden that month we were basically up maybe, 20, 30%. And we've pretty consistently, been doing that, except, well, not the last couple months. The start of the year has not been so
dang it,
for
it's
us.
always here.
Yeah. So, what are you going to do? That has more to do with just all the other factors that come into place of,
Right.
switching over associates, switching over hygienists, all the lovely stuff that, puts all the pressure on myself and the rest of the wonderful team here. But
Right.
we're doing it.
So I love that. And I love that you brought that up of you. Number one, I think it's really impressive that you're a dentist, you're the doctor, and you're the one who thinks through this. Because while, yes, teams can do it, and I encourage teams to think like this if your doctors don't. But Dave, I love that you're always a very proactive dentist. You are always thinking about like, okay, what causes this? And instead of just focusing on the symptoms, you go to the root cause. Like, what is causing us to have Thursdays that aren't as productive? What is causing us to have successful Mondays through Wednesdays? And what could we do to change that? And I then love that you went and took this to like, what would my ideal schedule be? Because as a team member, that's literally what I need from you. I need to know what my doctor prefers because I can put together a schedule, but I know working with hundreds of dentists, like Kiera Dent knows that not every dentist likes to practice the same way. Some doctors love to rock and roll until about noon and then like just fill it with fluff at the end of the day. They do not want anything hard. They don't want to be doing any production. Other doctors are like, nope, that's when I like to do my surgeries, put my surgeries in at the end of the day. And so it really is paramount for our dentists to give us this like ideal schedule of what they want. And then we can word ninja as team members. Like Dr. Dave loves to see his patients for this procedure at this time. So there's a lot of different ways we could do it. But how did you kind of come up with your ideal schedule that you actually wanted to do? Like, how did you even map that out? Because I think sometimes people are like, well, I don't actually know what I want or how much I want to produce. Like, did you have only the type of procedures that was going to be ideal for you? Or did you have the dollar amount that was going to be ideal for you? Like, how did you build this out for priority scheduling?
Yeah, no, I only did it based on the type of procedures. I actually put zero thought into the dollar amounts.
Perfect.
And I think, it kind of all comes full circle and just kind of the way that we do everything here. And it's going to be super different in every office. And I mean, I've shared my template that I made in Excel with, other friends and stuff like that, but it's not going to work for other offices for a variety of reasons. I am very different than the guy next door or across the country and everything like that. And I mean that in a positive way. We all have our strong suits. We all have what we like to do. We all have what makes us successful and how we want to go ahead and practice. Just like you guys can't, walk in and give somebody a cookie cutter template for consulting. It's the same thing, here. So totally. I think really, how did I figure out how to do it? Well, what do I want to do? What do I find is helpful? What do we have a demand for in our practice? I mean, these are all factors that come into play. I mean, I could love to, let's pick like a random procedure. I mean, I could love to do immediate dentures, every single day. But unless, I'm in a place where we're just edentulating every human being, like that's not going to happen.
It's true.
So it's a matter of taking like all these factors into account, figuring out what works, and then kind of some of the logistics, like what is different on different days. We have a wonderful, wonderful dental assistant who's with us only on Wednesdays and has been for forever. And she takes care of like all our denture stuff. She'll make, flippers immediately for patients in the chair. She'll add teeth. She'll turn like partials into dentures, stuff like that. So Wednesday mornings is when I'm lining up a lot of my, setting up for implant kind of cases, or just, big extraction cases, things like that, where it's kind of like, in a pinch, we can do the extraction and grafting. She can give them something temporary or stuff like that. So a lot of that stuff, or, we just kind of line things like that up that way. Other than that, I mean, I like to go ahead and get the day started with at least something moderately, productive. So, sure. The way we do crowns in our office, we do them in a single visit. So, it's going to be a block, like, we start with that. The next hour is going to be, something smaller, space for emergency. And then, kind of sprinkle things out throughout the day, having blocks where it's just going to be just longer, quadrant kind of stuff. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, that's the starting point. But I think the big thing for, doctors and team members listening is like, yeah, this is like the template, but it doesn't mean like it's set in stone. And if you don't get anything a day before, like tell everybody else to take a hike.
Right.
I mean, It's a matter of having that kind of idea of like, well, what makes sense for you guys? Is it 24 hours before, 48 hours before, where we're going to go ahead and just basically put either whatever or switch it up? Or if we're like a week out and we really got to get somebody in, let's switch the block, but then let's make sure we change it in the surrounding areas to accommodate for things so we don't have, weird, odd dead space.
Right, exactly. And I think that's a key piece that I feel like a lot of people almost become robotic when you do have these blocks in there, and it's like only put filling here, and it's like no guys, like we still need to utilize our brains, and we need to think of what's going to be the best flow for our patients and also for our practice. And you're right, for me, my standard is typically 24 hours before. I don't put anything in that block or that space because my goal is to try and fill it. I also think it's really important, I know as a treatment coordinator, I just feel like I was building a puzzle piece all day long. So patients, I almost saw them as puzzle pieces. And where could I fit this patient to fit with all the rest of the patients to make a really beautiful schedule? And so if somebody walked up and they said, okay, I'm fillings today, but I know I've got a bigger block, I'm not going to stick this puzzle piece in the big block because it's not going to fill that space. So I'm really looking to put this patient in where it's going to work best for our practice and also for the patient. But so often I think team members are like, well, this filling wants tomorrow, Kiera. And I'm like, well, yes, a child also wants candy every day for dinner too. And so just because the patient says they want that, what they ultimately want is a great experience. And as a team, what we ultimately want is a great experience. So let's kind of word ninja, help the patient realize like, hey, Dr. Dave actually prefers to do his fillings at this time. Let's reserve this for you. So that way I'm really doing it. Also, guys, like I'm gonna give some tips to the front office and for all team member scheduling, because I'm also not just pro front office, but also back office. Please, like, don't set yourself up for failure by saying what day works best for you. Because as soon as you open that floodgate, that patient's going to tell you what they would prefer. That then you get into a pickle. Like, what if we only have this assistant on Wednesdays that does this procedure, but they said Tuesday? Well, now I've got to tell them the great news of, hey, our assistant's amazing and she's only in on Wednesday, so we got to schedule you on Wednesday, but they just told me they want Tuesday, so I'm already in a losing battle. Be proactive and say, fantastic, Dr. Dave loves to do his implants on Wednesdays. Let's get a time reserved. I've got 9 a.m. or 3 p.m. What works best for you? So that way I'm being directive on the conversation as well. It's going to help minimize that frustration and also make scheduling a lot easier in that priority scheduling. So I think the 24-hour rule before, and then also making sure we're as team members setting it up as well, so we're not having frustrated patients merely because of how we ask the questions rather than guiding the conversation. So Dave, I'm curious, when you built this schedule out, did you kind of do a rough draft and then take it to the team and ask them of what they thought? Or was it, hey, let's try this out? How did you roll this to the team? Because I think a lot of doctors worry that they'll ruffle some feathers with the team members. So how did you roll this out to your team to get some solid buy-in from it as well?
So the way we actually ended up doing this in the first round, it was myself, my previous associate, and my office manager sat down and kind of did, the two doctor schedules. Mm-hmm. And it was nice to do that because I'm just going to probably be like, oh, I just want to do this. And then, they'll have to like reel me in and be like, that is just probably pretty inappropriate. Like,
It's true. Doctors always think that they can get things done so fast. They're like, oh yeah, I could get that crown done in 30 minutes. And I'm like, I'll be honest, it's going to take you at least 45 minutes. Like, I've watched you for the last 5 years. Like, I know your schedule, doctor. So it's good to have somebody balance you out that knows a reality check on it as well.
So I think that's the thing. You definitely need at least one other person to either like look through it, talk through it. I think if you get everybody involved, you get too many cooks in the kitchen. That's generally like pretty unhelpful.
Right.
So there's that to it. But the other things to take into account and everything like that is like, let's say different doctors have different skill sets and everything like that. Well, you kind of have to really take into account like, well, if this doctor is the only one who can do these procedures, we need space for that and this and that. And, if this doctor only does, these types of things, there needs to be more variety in things. As a result, I hear a lot of, hey, Dr. Dave, like we can't get this patient in for a filling with you for XYZ time. And I'm just like, yep. Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. That's okay.
It's just like, it's okay. Like, it's one of those things. And like, that was a big, It's a little bit of a tricky situation. We were in a pinch in the last couple of months where we've been much more shorthanded, but now that we're trying to grow another schedule again and balance everything out, and as our newer doctor in the practice is growing her skill set and incorporating more things in, it's actually perfect.
Totally. And I think you were really wise in saying to, one, bring the other associate, if there's another doctor, and an office manager, so like a front office scheduler, whomever that is in your practice, because you guys then are going to really build a really beautiful puzzle together of where it goes. I remember I had an office and there were two doctors who could both do root canals. However, logistically speaking, they only had one set of root canal equipment in the practice. So for us to ever schedule double root canals at the same time, and this was a pretty root canal heavy practice, they had to get really smart of where can we put this to make sure, and same thing like with utilizing a mill. If you only have one mill, you don't want to have two doctors doing two crowns at the same time, because then you're going to get into a mill issue. And so I agree. I think it's just really smart how you guys did that. And then also being able to pivot with your team. I love that you've held the line though of like, oh, Dr. Dave, we don't have a spot to put a filling. Like, team members need to realize that it's okay. An ideal schedule for us, priority scheduling for our team, does not mean we're doing a disservice to our patients. I have found that when we create chaos for our team, that does not give a good patient experience, nor does it give a good team experience. And so really being okay to say, hey, this doesn't, like, we have this spot available for you, versus it being like, let me try and shove a filling in and we're going to try and make this schedule work. Like, a schedule should not be work, in my opinion. They should flow. Yes, you need to be creative. Yes, you need to look for those puzzle pieces and fill them in. Be proactive, make those extra phone calls. Don't just wait for the patient to show up. Like, proactively call, look through. Guys, I don't know if you know, but on unscheduled treatment plans, you literally can filter by procedure code. And so you can actually go look, like, if I know I need a crown, I can sort my list of unscheduled treatment and find all the crown patients and contact those patients. Again, I'm looking for a certain puzzle piece. I'm not going to just get any puzzle piece. I want that certain one so I can make those strategic phone calls, maximize my time. So Dave, I love that you built this out. I love that you shared, and I love that you really prioritized your team and what you guys wanted. And then we're able to fill the patients in, like I said, like puzzle pieces, trying to make a beautiful schedule. And it really is doable. It just requires, I think, the whole team to be on board and bought in. Otherwise, it gets pure mayhem. Like, if one person's doing it, but the other person's not in the front office, it gets wild. And so everybody needs to play by the rules. And I think there's great success. Any other tips you've got on priority scheduling, Dave? You've shared so much already. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I got a handful. We can definitely keep
ready.
going on this. I think another thing to take into account here, just like with everything else, you got to take it with a grain of salt. You know, if you have a long established patient who can only come at 8 a.m. and needs a filling, all right, put the patient in. Like, you know what I'm saying? You got to give your team that flexibility and that leeway. And saying, like, look, this is this, and just kind of, if they give me a heads up of like, oh, it's so and so, like, we had to do it, it's like, okay, like, it is what it is, like, you know, change it up, do this, like, you know, we're gonna make it work, because at the end of the day, our patients are a priority. Mm-hmm. You know, as much as like it's great if we can go ahead and word ninja things and shift everybody around and everything like that. That's not always possible. That's not always, you know, the thing in every practice. I mean, it's nice if we can do it, but, you know, there has to be leeway and flexibility. And the only thing I ask of everybody is, okay, just tell me what's up and change the blocks, shift some stuff around so things match up. So it's not like, you know, we have like an odd, like, lull or like, you know, nothing going on. And, you know, at the end of the day, depending on where you are in your practice life cycle and what's going on, sometimes having blocked out space and time is actually really helpful to help, you know, get emergencies and grow things and stuff like that. So
for sure,
not always the end of the world.
I think
I could use more time sitting at my desk.
I know, but then we feel like as team members, our doctor goes to what I call like the black hole, like you guys going to your office. I'm like, then I'll never get you back. But I think it's one of those pieces also. I think you brought up a good point. I think so many offices forget to find space for emergencies. Because guess what? There will always be emergencies, and emergencies can actually be super great in a schedule. I actually loved emergencies because they're great same-day treatment. They're great opportunities. It's great to be able to help patients. And so I think that that's a good piece to actually build into your schedule template. of where you actually want these emergencies to go. Guess what, guys? When somebody's in pain, they will come wherever you tell them they can come if they're truly in an emergency situation. Like, they do not need your 8 a.m. They do not need your 4 p.m. Like, if they are truly in pain, they will show up at whatever time you have. So I think it's very paramount to get those emergencies in there as well, because that will throw an entire day for your team if there's not emergency space in that schedule to fill it in. So agreed with you. I don't like long lulls, but I definitely like to plan for those emergencies when we would like to see them.
Yeah, I think it's super, super helpful. I think at the end of the day, also something that I've always been a big proponent of, what we consider an emergency appointment in our office is very rarely kind of like, oh, hey, this is what's going on. Here's the prescription, or let's reschedule. It's really along the lines of, if it's something that we can do without, having any type of negative impact on our other patients and the flow of everything else, we're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big proponent of, if the tooth needs to come out and wants to come out, there's no way we're not going to work that in, because, if you do this for a while, it doesn't take that long. Somebody can understand, and be pretty patient and say, hey, I'm going to work in the schedule. I definitely want to help you out. We have a lot else going on, but if you can hang out for half an hour, 40 minutes, I got to take care of a couple other things first, I will get you all set today, rather than like, oh yeah, let's schedule you in, 2 weeks. And then, by that point, they're still in the schedule, but they saw somebody else. And, you have, same thing with, a crown, if you can. I mean, why not? Like, prep it, temp it, take your impression, get everything all set, take your scan, make the crown, whatever you do in your office. Like, if you can work it in the schedule, if somebody's patient, like, why not get that done the same day? I think doing that is what, I feel like really built our practice in the first couple of years that I was here. I love doing stuff like that. I love trying to help somebody out the same day. People really appreciate it, and that's what's really going to build goodwill.
Exactly. That's raving fans right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love same-day treatment. Same-day treatment. I heard a quote once that said, what's the most productive chair in a practice? And it was an empty chair, because that's the chair that you can flip. Like, I don't prefer to have my schedule have empty chairs. But let's be honest, like, that same-day treatment is always very, very, very beneficial for patients. Like, I feel like that's the VIP customer service that we can offer. And so I love that you've built a culture of a team that if we can do it, we will say yes. And we're always looking for how we can say yes versus how we can't say yes. I know I've shared this with so many practices. Like, there's I just say with same day treatment, it's all about timing. You've got to be really quick, and we've got to be able to say yes, because a window is only so big and it only lasts for so long with same day treatment opportunities. So being proactive and like, let's say yes sooner than later, because honestly, if I can have the patient say yes and have the financials done while Dr. Dave's in the chair with me, he can get the patient numb. That can move along a lot quicker. I can be taking all of my prelim work. And with crowns, I think it's also important, especially for same day, you don't have to do A to Z the entire way. Like, you don't have to complete the crown if we don't have time. Like you said, you could temp a crown and bring them back, and you can mill it and seat it. If you've got time to mill it and seat same day, fantastic. But I think especially with those same day emergencies, like, say yes, but realize we don't have to do the entire process. We can still get them out of pain as other alternatives to being able to say yes. I know we did same day crowns all the time, but I also had very minimal chairs, and we were always like very packed with all those chairs. So instead of like taking up a huge chunk of time while that crown was milling, we would temp them sometimes and send them out and bring them back for a crown seat on a day where I had space for that. It wasn't my preferred, but that was a way we were able to help a lot more patients within the confines of our practice. We only had 5 chairs. I was running 3 doctor chairs, and they were all jam-packed because I had EDAs. So like little mini dentists all the time. So I was literally implant, crown. So there wasn't a lot of space on chair time because I had another surgery coming right after. But there's still, like, I wanted to paint that picture, because no matter what your practice is, you can still say yes to same day and train your team to say yes and say it quickly. That way you guys can help more patients same day.
Yeah. So a couple of things with that. Yeah. If you can expand your facility to be able to accommodate things, one, it makes things very easy and stuff like that. Like, I don't I almost never make temporaries because of that, because we have extra chairs and stuff like that. The crazy thing with that is, you're going to spend a lot of money on doing things. You're going to be like me, who has, walls being knocked down and your office is a dust storm and have to stand in your attic to do a podcast.
This is true. Dave's in the attic right now, guys.
Like a war zone right now. But I'm a little nuts. I think it's worth it. That's all part of it. I think the other thing that, I really want to make sure that we clarify is, don't say yes if you can't say yes. Like, don't make it a not good experience for, your other patients. Respect everybody. Don't rush yourself, do what you can do within the confines of things. It's just my philosophies of, let's try and make it work if we can, to try and help somebody out within reason.
Hello, Dental Team listeners. What would it take for you guys to just completely and utterly change your practice? Like, truly, if you think about it, because for me, I know oftentimes it's just having somebody right by my side, pushing me along, holding me accountable, having somebody to spin ideas off of. And honestly, that's all it takes most of the time for us to go from good to great. Usually it's taking the knowledge that we learn and actually executing it. That's why I would love to invite you to join our Platinum Virtual, where we do a coaching call, a Zoom team training. We invite you to our community, and we just really dive deep with you. We're that partner right by you to help you go from good to great. So if you're wanting to join, take your practice to the next level, and it's time for you to implement, execute, and go to that next level, email us, hello@thedentalateam.com, and I would be so excited to welcome you as our newest Platinum Virtual member. Can't wait to see you there.
Agreed. And thank you for that clarifying, because the worst thing that I see is people are like, hey, we're going to say yes to same day treatment, but that ends up messing up the schedule for all the other patients that were scheduled, that were coming, that came on time. And that also is not VIP care. So you're right. It's kind of this nice, healthy balance. But I have found that team members who are quicker, team members that have the philosophy of, we will say yes as often as possible within reason, they just think quicker. Like, I know we could have a crown prep set up within less than two-ish minutes. Like, I was like, Doc, I'll have this whole room set up for you and come right back. And so I think it's that mindset of, I know I need to move quick because I don't want to throw the rest of my schedule off. But like you said, never, ever, ever compromising care, because I think some people can get caught up in that, and then dentistry is not as good, and that doesn't actually serve the patient long term either.
You want to talk about the other side of priority scheduling?
Yes, I do. Take it away, Dave.
Hygiene.
Yes. All right.
So this is something you probably have a better scope and handle on me. I'm pretty sure you guys were the ones who a long time ago started, kind of pushing me more towards the lines of make sure that you put blocks in for new patients, and for perio, you could do separate blocks. You could do the same kind of blocks. You just need space to be able to help somebody. The worst thing in the world is like, hey, you have this crazy disease, but guess what? We'll see you in 3 months to try and address this situation. Super important, right? It sounds great.
It makes me laugh every time. Every time. Like, man, you got this terrible disease. We got to take care of it. I can't see you for 6 months. Cool. All right. I mean, it sounds real serious.
Yeah. Like, we just told somebody their teeth are going to fall out of their head, and we can't see them for a while.
That's
right. Wonderful.
No, it does not go well, so I think
ever. So I think that's one big thing. I think that is one of the handful of things that really helped us grow as far as being able to get more new patients, was actually being able to see them and fit them in the schedule, rather than kind of like we have this jam-packed hygiene schedule of one prophy after the other. It helps create variety, it helps mix things up, it helps grow things in your office. I mean, the last couple of months of kind of not having those spaces have really helped me realize, you can go from seeing on average 50 new patients a month to 20 when you don't have any space to put anybody, and you don't have the providers to see them, and it sucks.
For sure. And I think that's, people always ask me, like, Kiera, how many new patient spots do I hold? And I say, go look at your schedule, see how many new patients you've got. And you've got to, as a minimum, have that many spaces in your schedule that are held for these new patients to come through, because they will keep calling. And new patients, if you don't have space, they might wait for you. But they also might go somewhere else, depending upon the dynamics around your practice. If you're in a busy area that's got lots of dentists, they're probably not going to wait that month or two to come see you. And so I agree. I typically say, guys, like, build it out, however many spaces you'll need for new patients. Let's get that in. And then also get creative, because I know there's some people who listen and they think, well, new patients should go in the doctor's schedule. And there's other people that think new patients should go in the hygiene schedule. And what I will say is both ways work great. They both can. I would say if you don't have any new patient spaces in your hygiene schedule, but you did block them, like I'm going to give you this caveat. If you're not blocking them, start blocking first. But if you are, sometimes some doctors will have those new patients come through on the doctor's side. Make it a shorter appointment and have that hygienist come in and perio chart for you. You can swap it out while they're doing an exam. But that way you can still see those patients on the doctor's side for a much shorter appointment. And just let them, I think some good verbiage on that is like, hey, Dr. Dave loves his new patients so much and he wants to make sure he sees you. So we're going to get you in on his schedule. If something opens up for you to get a cleaning same day, fantastic. But we want to make sure we get you in. That way Dr. Dave can see you, find out what kind of cleaning you need. And that's a great way if you have that. But then next month, block more spaces. And people say, Kiera, we're booked out for 6 months. Hygiene's booked out for 6 months. And I literally tell you guys, like, start putting blocks in today. There is space where patients have fallen off, and start holding all of those spots as they do fall off for new patients to come through, and then get those blocks in for 6 months. So you, as you are scheduling out the next 6 months, you're making your life better in the future than not. So Dave, how do you guys do it? Do you hold it only for new patients, or do you do new patients and SRPs? What's kind of been your magic formula you found in your practice?
I can't say that we have the magic here. You know, it's a work in progress. I think we've kind of just been doing, you know, longer blocks to accommodate for both. I think something that, you know, I've been toying with more so lately, to kind of get to your other point of like, do you put them in the doctor schedule, the hygiene schedule, stuff like that? You know, if we're doing a good job in the front office and really asking the right questions, and once again, that goes with a grain of salt, because my front office team does do a good job and they do ask the right questions. But sometimes, you know, the patients will tell us something that's insane and doesn't really match. Yep. But the point I'm trying to get to here is, like, if somebody hasn't been in like 10 years and they're in their, you know, 40s, 50s, and they, you know, are giving you signs that very likely it's, you know, a potential train wreck, probably not going to do the hygiene visit that day anyway. Right. But if you have an hour in hygiene instead of that hour and a half, like, why not just go ahead and help them form that relationship with the hygienist and say, you know, we're going to go ahead. It sounds like there may be a lot going on. We're going to get you in. We're going to take a, you know, full set of records. The doctor's going to come in and, you know, you guys are going to work through kind of putting a plan together, and we're going to go ahead and go from there. But, you know, with what it sounds like your situation is, we really want to make sure that we take a pause here. We take a second, we make sure we evaluate everything well, and then go from there. Now, I mean, their periodontal status could be perfectly fine. It happens, you know, where that's the situation. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's not something where somebody is expecting, like, oh my God, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Most patients who haven't been in 10 years, they know they haven't been in 10 years. Right. They expect things to be a little bit of a mess. Sometimes they're perfectly fine. You know, that happens, but at least, you know, it wasn't something where their expectation was like, oh my God, I was going to get everything done, and like, this is all you guys did. Right. And I think, like you said, the biggest piece I hope everybody's taking from here is it's all about how you say things and you manage people's expectations. And so I think it's really important to help them realize, like, we're going to take great care of you. We're going to do a great thorough exam on you, and we're going to come up with a game plan together. And I would say to the hygienist, I know that sometimes patients come through that we think are going to be perio. And I know it's not the most ideal time frame where you're like, oh, I only have 45 minutes and I really need an hour and a half. What I would say that I've seen with lots of other hygienists, and Brittany and Dana both would attest to this, they're both hygienists. I think hygienists, back to our same day treatment, let's see what you could do. Is there a zone that you could do? Could you do a debridement? Could you do maybe just one quad? Could you, and start looking for those things and seeing how could you say yes to help this patient? Because at the end of the day, you have 45 minutes. And if we send them away and try and get them scheduled back, yes, that can happen. But at the same time, like, could you maximize their time and your chair time to help that patient out, at least in a small way? Now, I get it. I understand insurance is crazy and you're going to give me all these other reasons that things can't work. I will tell you that there are a lot of opportunities that we could do. So look to see what could you do during that time frame, and is there a way that you could help this patient out so you're maximizing their time and your time as well. Yeah, I think you bring up some really great points and some things that more so recently we've been, thinking about and pivoting towards. It used to be like a big waste of time, honestly, in our hygiene schedule. Like we have an hour and a half hygiene appointment. They need scaling or root planning. Oh, let's set this up. Like, are they going to come back? When's it going to be? Rather than, hey, this is what the situation is. At this point, the patient is bought into it. I'm most concerned about this section over here. Let's go ahead and let's get you started, at least here. Let's get things moving in the right direction, and let's get you set up, in 2 weeks to go ahead and do these two areas. And then we'll finish off with this one, rather than just kind of like waiting and hoping, oh, I got to do like one half now and one half the other day. Like, let's say it's going to be, 2 to 3 visits. Like, let's show them like, hey, that this area that's worse. We're going to focus on just that by itself. I mean, I think if you explain things in the appropriate way, that builds a lot more value than kind of like somebody coming back one more time. Like, great, they're still investing the same amount, but it shows that you're investing more in them in a sense, because you're going to potentially, spend extra time.
For sure. And I think that that's just the piece of like as you said, that they have an hour and a half, but they need quads of like, just do something. You have the time, so please do something. And I know you're going to say, but Kiera, insurance only covers this. Guys, I want to put out a really big piece. Like, most perio patients have more going on than just SRPs. So odds are they're probably going to max their insurance anyway. I'm 99.9% sure that almost every single perio patient has more going on. And at the same time, I'm going to work with that patient financially to make sure that it actually works and we do maximize their benefits. But please, like, don't waste an hour of that patient's time and your chair time because we're so concerned about insurance. Like, there are 1,000 ways that we can work around that. Because at the end of the day, like, let's not let insurance dictate what we do for our patient. Let's make sure we're taking great care of our patients as well. So I love it, Dave. I'm glad you and I are on the same page. If you guys could have seen my face when he said, oh, I don't have time. I was like, oh my gosh, like, don't even say that. Find the way to say yes, because like you said, you just told this patient they have perio disease, like, and you have some time that you could start in an area. Like, let's take care of them and let's see how we could say yes versus not, especially where hygiene is booked out so far. Hygienists are hard to find. We would love to have an ideal schedule, but it's like, how could we maximize the hygienist's time and the patient's time today without compromising care? So it's always with the caveat of like, let's not compromise care, but could we say yes in some of these areas? And I think if we really were all honest with ourselves, we could say yes more often than we probably do. And we could help more patients. That's at least my thoughts.
I think that's the big thing too. I think, we a lot of times will make a lot of excuses in situations, and sometimes they're valid, sometimes they're not. I think really at the end of the day, everybody being on the same page in the sense of kind of what is best for the patient, how we want to do things, and what our philosophies and mentalities are about, patient treatment and care. And at the end of the day, this also takes the right team members. If somebody wants to just kind of be there, punch the clock, mail it in, and gets annoyed that like, oh my God, like, just do the other 2 sealants, you still have half an hour, like, don't bring them back and kill time in the schedule. That's not the right team member. And sometimes that's hard.
Amen. Like, and sealants, fluoride, like, those are all opportunities that taking impressions or scans for night guards, like, taking scans for ortho, like, there are so many ways that we could maximize that hour. And I will say, hygienist, I will go to bat for you all day long to protect your hour appointment. With that said, I will also go to bat that hygienist, you do maximize that hour and you are productive with that hour as well. You look for opportunities that you can do same day as often as possible. And I agree with you, Dave. I think it's important to have the right team member. So I'm curious from your stance, like, you've hired a lot of people, you've transitioned a lot of people. How do you, you're hiring new people now. What are some tips that you've found to possibly like set the tone? That this is our culture, this is what we do, to find these people that are like, yes, like drivers, gunners, like, I am totally going to say yes. Any tips you've got on how to find those people and create that culture?
I wish I had like a real good answer for you, because I could use that knowledge, and so could every other office owner in the entire country. I think it's really, it's very difficult right now. It's always difficult in general, honestly. I think, as I kind of do some soul searching on the topic here and really kind of dive into it there, just being very upfront about kind of what your practice is, what your expectations are, and really kind of laying it all out there, not being afraid, like, oh my God, am I going to scare this person? Because at the end of the day, if they come in with the preconceived notion of like, hey, this is going to be like this, and then like they see, yeah, oh shit, this is like very intense. Oh my God, I've tried the last five episodes not to swear on like
Dave,
the biggest like potty mouth ever with stuff like this.
I'm impressed. I mean,
that was give the editor some work to do here. Yeah.
No, it's because we're talking about team and the frustration of team. It just comes out. I get it. I might have said a word or two myself. Oh
my God, that's the thing. You can ask Tiff how much I swear when I talk to her. Like this is like every other word is something there. Right? Anyway, not to get sidetracked. I mean, I think it's a matter of, really setting the tone and the expectation of, hey, this is how we are. This is our practice. Because at the end of the day, like we've always been able to find pretty good people based on like, how they interact with each other and what our culture is like and everything like that. But if somebody doesn't want to really like work and really get everything going and stuff like that, it's at the end of the day we're buying time until it's going to transition out.
Totally.
Because for us it's really important to work hard, to grow, to learn, to spend the time doing training, to sit through all the meetings that we do, to try and really work on you as a person and a part of the team. But if somebody just kind of says like, oh my God, this is amazing for a year, and then is kind of wreaking havoc and punching the clock for another year, that actually had more of a negative impact than a positive impact.
Well, for sure, because it sets the tone to the team that everybody else can do this. I remember another fantastic quote, guys. I'm like quoting all over here, but I don't know who says it. So go find out who said this. This was not me, but they said like the worst thing that a manager or a leader could do to good team members. So the worst thing we can do to good team members is tolerate poor performance from another team member. Because what it does is it just tells those great team members like, hey, we actually don't care. We're going to allow this other team member just to be a clock puncher, where I expect you to stay super like proactive. So I think when I heard that, I thought as a manager, like that is my job. I need to make sure all of my team members are at the same level, understanding that everybody has their own levels as well. But I agree with you, Dave. I think that that's the biggest thing I found. I remember when I was hiring and we worked late hours, I used to try and like sugarcoat it, and I'd be like, yeah, so like maybe. And what I realized is they came in expecting not to work these evening hours. Then all my team that was there, that was working evening hours, were livid that new person hired gets off at 5 o'clock and they're here till 7 or 7:30. And so I just found like, just throw your dirty laundry out there. But I don't think culture is dirty laundry. I think that's hey, it's kind of like dating. And I'm like, hey, this is who I am, and I'm not going to sugarcoat who I am. Does this vibe and jive with you? And if it doesn't, like high five, you're going to find somewhere that does vibe and jive with you. But we're an office that is like super passionate about growing ourselves. We're an office that says yes to same day treatment all the time. We're the office that busts our buns all day long, and we love it, and we get a freaking high on it, and we all wish we could wear roller skates so we could actually see more patients. Like, does that lifestyle work for you? And then also give me an example of how you've done this at your past practice, and do quick things that are going to put them on the spot. Because I found like rogue questions, they've got answers for you, but I'll ask them on the spot. Like one of my favorite questions is, what's the worst thing anybody would say about you at your last practice, and why? And people are like, but they have to give me an answer right then and there, and I'm going to find out. Also, a trick question is, what's your biggest pet peeve of other team members? And what they tell me is what they are, because we only see in other people who we are. So that's kind of been a thing. If people say, oh, I can't stand lazy team members, odds are this person's probably going to be a lazy team member. Not all the time. It's not like a fail-proof question. But some of those things I think can really help. But like you said, Dave, I think it's so paramount to say this is who our team is. Also have your team members interview them and see what they think. And because when a person comes in and they see the whole team is jiving, the whole team does same day treatment, the whole team is this way, one, they're either going to level up and rise to that occasion, or two, they'll be like, this is not what I want to do. And that's okay. Let them find their dream job, and you find your dream employee as well.
I think that's a big part of it. I think another thing is, look, at the end of the day, I am a lot of the personality of my office, and it took me maybe a long time to understand that and be okay with saying that and just be like, oh, no big deal. Like, but that's it. So if they are not really okay with how intense and passionate I am about certain things and this and that. And they're going to not be happy with like, okay, we need to do this. Like, that's just not going to work. Like, sorry. Like, and we kind of fool ourselves and we kind of buy time because we worry about like, oh, what are we going to do? Like being shorthanded. But I mean, we've been shorthanded for like 3 years now. And it works. So, I mean,
there's always that fear of the unknown, but I'm like, guys, we've actually been in the unknown. You just forgot that you've lived there for quite a while. Like, it's totally fine. Don't stress. I love that you just said that, Dave, because I think so many doctors, so many managers, I'm like, know thyself and be free. And don't be afraid of it, because guess what? They're going to see your true colors. They're going to see what it's like. And I'd much rather present exactly how I am. I tell people, I'm like, if you want to work with me, I'm a pretty intense boss. I have the highest standards you will ever come across, and I don't sugarcoat. If that doesn't jive and vibe with you, it's cool. Let's high five and move on, because that's what I will expect of you. And then don't be afraid. And I say this because I just had to do it myself. Don't be afraid that if people aren't performing to the level you want and you can see the writing on the wall, it's time to have that conversation sooner than later. And don't be afraid of what your team will do. Because I promise you, your team will, like, they'll rise up, they'll figure it out, they'll pivot with you if they're the right team members. But don't hold on to team members longer than you know you should.
Yeah, I think another thing also is, as things have changed and now there are people who are coming into dentistry who don't really know much about dentistry or what it is. I found it probably most helpful in one of our most recent hires, which is, our new assistant who assists me, who's been with us for the last 2 months. Before she even came in for an interview, I spent about half an hour on the phone trying to tell her how bad of a job being a dental assistant is.
Yes. And
really just kind of saying, like, look, at the end of the day, like, it is very difficult work. You may feel underappreciated because it's so difficult, and days are hard. And what we do is sometimes thankless. And, there's a lot that goes into that. I need you to understand that before you even walk in the door. Mm-hmm. If you're not going to be okay with that, it doesn't mean that I don't appreciate you. It doesn't mean our patients don't appreciate you. That is just what happens.
Right.
So if somebody's not going to be okay with that, then this is not like a new career path to try and like hop into.
I think
if somebody understands that and they're passionate about things, they want to learn, they want to create a new thing, great, let's do it. I will teach you more here than you'll learn anywhere else.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Which I think is brilliant. And it's funny because Liz, she is my coach, and she actually interviews all of our consultants. And Liz and I are a good duo. I like people to like me, and Liz is more direct because she has no skin in the game, and she knows the skin in the game is my happiness and stress level. And Liz will literally talk to consultants and tell them the worst, terrible experiences. She's like, are you okay to be on the road 80% of the time away from your family? That means 4 out of the 5 days. Are you how do you feel getting stuck in an airport, having to spend the night? Your flights are canceled because of weather and you can't get to your office. You don't eat for 3 days. And I'm like, Liz, don't make, and she's like, no, Kiera, I'd rather make this sound so awful and see if they're still willing to have that grit to come back. She's like, because at the end of the day, a consultant has to have grit. They have to have pivot. They have to have that stamina. And I'd much rather have it be like the most horrifying interview. And if they're like, yep, no problem. Like Britt, you haven't met her yet, Dave, but Britt is somebody who's like, it's fine. I actually ended up getting stuck in another country because my friend had appendicitis. I'm totally good. And I'm like, that's even more than I've got in my travel life. She's like, I'm totally good. So I think it's important, like you said, really lay it out of not the best highlight reel of the job, but the worst highlight reel, and see if they still want the job. Because expectations are clear.
Hard. It's hard in general. It's hard for anybody to get behind when it's kind of been just hard to find people, but I think I do have a good feeling that things are starting to turn. I do feel like there's a lot more people out there who are looking for jobs now, and a lot more wonderful people. I feel much more positive about it than I have in a long time here. So I think it's a good time for everybody to, be okay with sacking up a little bit more and, feeling okay with that and being more, straightforward about that. I think it's a hard thing for anybody to do in life in general.
Right.
It's just it's not really my personality. But I think it's important to go ahead and do that for the greater good there.
For sure. Again, this quote, I do know, this was from Keith Cunningham. And he said, as a CEO, do your job. And that has hit me like a knife, because while Dave, yes, that is not fun. It's not a fun conversation for anyone to have. As a CEO, as an owner, as an office manager, people that are interviewing, that are hiring, it is your job to make sure you hire and hire really well. So yes, it's an uncomfortable conversation, but that uncomfortable conversation is going to weed out a ton of people that wouldn't have lasted anyway. And I don't like to band-aid approach of like, let's just get somebody in and have a body versus it being, no, I want somebody who's here with me for the next 5 years and they're going to like go through the highs and the lows and they're going to be awesome. So I think you've just like pivoted on so many fun ideas, Dave, of like, number one, the priority scheduling, guys. So building that schedule out with doctor, office manager, associate, making sure that you guys build an ideal schedule, and then having kind of the parameters for your front office of how often do we hold these blocks and when we need to do a pivot change. For example, that 8 a.m. patient who needs those filling times at 8 a.m. To be able to shift those blocks around and really viewing the schedule like a puzzle, and we're trying to fit perfect puzzle pieces and realizing word ninja it, love the patient, then going into same day treatment and how you're able to do that. Let's say yes more often and look for that. Then going into hygiene and holding those hygiene new patient blocks. So get those new patient and SRP blocks in there. Let's make sure we have space to get that perio, and also having the mindset of, hey, if I can do this, let's do it today. Let me find ways that I could say yes to maximize this patient's time and my chair time. And then moving all the way into making sure you have the right team that has that same mindset with you. And yes, culture shifts are not easy. You might today be like, I want to have the practice like Dave, but I'm not there. Dave, I know you would attest this.
Dave's not there.
You didn't start
Dave's
here, though.
Not there.
You didn't start there, though. Like
Dave's not there yet. It's a work in progress.
And I love that
I
you
always
said that.
feel like I listen to podcasts a lot of time, like, oh my God, this person has it all figured out. No, that's not the thing. Like, I'll give you bits and pieces. There's a lot of stuff that is it's not good. But the point is, if I shared that like as the only things we shared, this would be a very like depressing podcast. At the end of the day, you want to go ahead and like share what to aspire for, what's worked out well, but knowing like, look, at the end of the day, it's hard for everybody. Like, and there's a lot more that goes into things. And, you could sit here and you could listen to Kiera and myself for the last 40 minutes or whatever and think like, oh my God, like, they have it all figured out. No, nobody does.
No, they don't.
You
Don't
just try and get better every day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I was trying to paint the picture of Dave didn't start here 3 years ago. This has been a work in progress the whole time. And what I would hope is you guys at least start somewhere today. Start making your tomorrows better by some of these tips that we have. I don't care what you choose to implement. I don't care how you choose to implement. I don't care if you choose to implement this quarter or if you put it off till next quarter. But I just would say, make sure you have it scheduled with yourself. Make your practice better and do something. Because every day, like Dave said, it's a work in progress every day, but let's make sure we're progressing towards where we want to go rather than just staying stagnant, which is ultimately going backwards. So Dave, I love your mind. I love that you are a dentist, that you'll share these things. I love that you as a dentist are willing to put in the hard work and actually show up and do your job. I think it's very inspiring and I love having you on the podcast. You inspire me. So thank you, Dave. As always, I just truly appreciate you.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate you a lot too. This has been wonderful.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, I encourage each of you to take something today, go implement it, make your tomorrow a better than it is today. And as always, thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time on the Dental 18 podcast.
And that wraps it up for another episode of the Dental 18 podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.